Niki Lauda once said, "Nowadays, with these modern cars, even a monkey could drive them." He really jinxed himself, because then they put him in a modern Formula One car and he spun out and ended up embarrassed. That was in 2002, behind the wheel of a Jaguar. Remember that? Yeah, that's right. And you're watching Small Great Stories. Every week here on Splash and Go, as you already know, we bring you a short story from Formula One or not, as long as it's quick, fun to tell, and cool to know. Let's go! Andreas Nicolaus Lauda, Niki Lauda, three-time Formula One world champion in 75, 77, and 84, was always famous for his brutally honest statements. An Austrian, straightforward, known for the precision of his assessments and his very peculiar sense of humor. Lauda raced in Formula One from 1971, when he bought his seat in March cars, until 1985, when he ended his career at McLaren. After that, he served as an honorary advisor at Ferrari, then at Jaguar, and would later finish his career still doing this at Mercedes. He suffered a near-fatal accident and returned to the track just 4 weeks later. In short, he is one of the greatest figures in the history of Formula One. Fast, analytical, highly technical, with a no-nonsense approach to things, he raised the bar for Formula One drivers. In total, 171 Grand Prix races, 3 world titles, 25 wins, 24 pole positions, and also 24 fastest laps. I forgot to mention, a passionate aviation enthusiast, he also launched his own airline, Lauda Air, and he never distanced himself from motorsport, whether occasionally racing classic and touring cars or working behind the scenes. And when Ford decided, from 1999 to 2000, to take over Stewart, rename it as Jaguar, at some point, the American manufacturer, now in charge of the British brand, called Lauda in to give some advice. Ford's thinking was, if the team does well with Stewart and a tighter budget, if we pour in unlimited money, soon we'll have a green Ferrari. It didn't quite work out that way. Bob Rahal had the trust of the American manufacturer and was sent from the United States to manage the team. But in August 2001, after about a year and a half in the position, Rahal was let go and Lauda was brought in. The Austrian, in addition to his reputation as a winning driver, had the eye of a successful businessman, having already launched his own airline, and that caught the Americans' attention. The 2001 and 2002 cars were packed with electronics, including traction control, and Lauda watched all of this with a mix of fascination and skepticism. It was in this context that the statements I mentioned at the beginning came up, making the events we're about to tell especially ironic, with Lauda saying that any monkey could drive a modern Formula One car, referring to the ease provided by the electronic systems, which he had never experienced in the cars from 71 to 85. It was then, on January 13, 2002, at the Ricardo Tormo circuit in Valencia, that Jaguar organized a promotional event, bringing in guests and inviting Lauda to drive one of the cars. The idea, of course, was to generate media coverage, to dominate the news, even if just for a few days, by putting an old-school 3-time champion behind the wheel of a modern car. The model, the Jaguar R2, was the same one that Pedro de la Rosa and Eddie Irvine had raced during the 2001 season. Lauda, at that point, was 52 years old and hadn't driven a race car in a competitive setting for a long time. And this time it didn't really count for anything either, but it served to show the world the livery Jaguar would use for the 2002 season. And what happened next, and we have footage of it, would make the event famous, with Lauda spinning out twice in the first 3 laps. The first incident happened at turn 2, when Lauda lost control of the car while accelerating, and the second, shortly after, was again due to a driving error. And this time, the engine stalled and the car had to be towed back to the pits. The irony of the situation obviously didn't go unnoticed by the press, who had been called there to give coverage to the events, and then ended up reporting exactly what happened. After the initial incidents, Lauda got out of the car, talked with the engineers, took a closer look at the steering wheel and what he could do, and still showing that same analytical profile, cool-headedness, and ability to learn very quickly, he then asked the engineers to put 50 kilos of fuel in the tank, went back out on track, and clocked 7 timed laps. According to the team itself, and as Pedro de la Rosa and Eddie Irvine confirmed, in medium and high-speed corners, he had practically the same cornering speed as the main drivers, showing that at 52 years old and after being away from Formula One for a long time, he still had the control and reflexes, braking more or less in the same spots as the active drivers. All of this with brakes, tires, aerodynamics, and a steering wheel that were very different from the last time he had really driven, back in '85. The lap times obviously didn't mean much, and what stood out were the cornering speeds, because on the stopwatch he was 15 seconds behind the times of the active drivers. After the test, he displayed humor and class, making fun of himself and saying, "I said that any monkey can drive a modern Formula One car, so I guess monkey says, monkey does," with that typical Lauda frankness, even when things turned against him. At the time, he commented that, as the team manager, the test had been useful for something, saying, "My intention for the test was to understand the car's technology, launch control, traction control, and the engine's behavior. I found out everything I wanted to know. Compared to my time, everything is very different, and now you keep both hands on the steering wheel." And he returned to the controversial topic. "Yes, I said that any monkey can drive a car these days, but I'm simply comparing it to driving 17 years ago. Back then, you had manual gears, a regular clutch, no anti-stall, and so on, and you had to watch out for wheel spin, making sure the car didn't slip at the start. Now, it's much easier to get the car moving." Lauda's time at Jaguar wouldn't last long, and with his departure, the career of a Brazilian there, Antonio Pizzonia, ended up being affected. Lauda was one of the supporters of hiring the Brazilian, and when he left, the Brazilian was left out and the clock started ticking against him. So that was another little big story from Splash and Go on YouTube. I hope you all enjoyed it. Leave a like, it's free, doesn't cost a thing. You know it really helps the channel. Do me this favor, do us this favor, and comment here. Suggest a little big story. Tell us if you like this one. Send a shout out to your spouse, your partner, your cat, your dog, your parakeet. Tell us where you're watching from. Any comment counts, and it helps the algorithm keep spreading our content across the internet. So you don't miss anything we do here. We have notification channels, Instagram, Telegram, and WhatsApp, where you can join and start getting automatic messages as soon as we publish each piece of content. Plus breaking news, race schedules on Formula One weekends, and so on. Last but not least, here are the handles for our social media: Instagram, Twitter, Threads, and TikTok, where there's content all the time. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, and a big hug to everyone.